honored to be able to introduce Ellie to you and to read her citation in a few minutes. As you hear the citation, you might get the impression that there are two sides to it. A side of outstanding achievement in high-energy nuclear physics, and a side of great national leadership and dedication to the broadening of gender understanding, inclusion, and equity. But I was here when you showed up at Juniata. So were a couple of people that were out here. And we saw the excitement that you had. We saw some struggles that you had. And we tried to share them. And when you realized that you could play and laugh for the rest of your life, and that you could work on the understanding and meaning and mechanisms of nature, and also that you could, or at least that you started to realize early on, that you could be yourself, and you could come out as not fitting the gender that the binary system of our society had tried to designate to you. A light turned on, or at least it brightened. And it grew. You started down a path that inspired people like me to be better, to be more inclusive, and to continue to seek the light in each of our students in so many ways. To me, these two sides of your resume, the great leadership that you've seen and that you've shown to the physics community and to the science community in general, and also this dedication to understanding of nature and the understanding of the nature of people, has only grown, and I see it as one thing together, these two sides. So I read your citation. Here we go. Whereas Elena A. Long, a member of the class of 2006, has distinguished herself in her profession, and whereas after graduating cum laude with a Bachelor's of Science degree in physics from Juniata College in 2006, she went on to earn a master's degree and doctorate in physics from Kent State University in 2008 and 2012. Whereas she began her career in 2006 with a teaching assistantship at Kent State University. They left out that you were a teaching assistant for us, too. She was great. Followed by posts as a graduate student researcher and collaborator at Kent State University and the Thomas Jefferson National Accelerator Facility from 2008 to 2012. And whereas she began her service as a postdoctoral research associate at the University of New Hampshire in 2013, where she is now a tenure-track assistant professor of physics, which is quite notable in today's economy to get a tenure-track position in physics right now. Whereas she has published more than a dozen articles in a variety of peer-reviewed journals, including Physical Review Letters, Nuclear Instruments and Methods in Physics, and Nature. And whereas she has been invited to give seminars, colloquia, and talks about her work and research across the U.S. and around the world, including Manitoba, Canada, and Rome, Italy, and a number of other places. Where she has earned prestigious scientific honors, including the Jefferson Science Associates Promising Young Scientist Grant, the Jefferson Science Associates Prize for Outstanding Postdoctoral Fellow, in recognition as one of Nature's 10 in 2016. Look that one up on the web. That is really impressive. And whereas she has complemented her academic contributions to the STEM fields by tirelessly advocating for LGBTQ+ inclusion and equity, founding the LGBT+ Physicists Support Organization in 2009, and whereas she served from 2011 to 2017 as Vice President of Diversity and Inclusion with OSTEM National, also known as Out in Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics. From 2013 to 14 on the University of New Hampshire's President's Committee on the Status of GLBT Issues, and from 2014 to 2016 as the ad hoc member of the American Physical Society's Committee on LGBT Issues, where she co-authored the LGBT Climate in Physics report, which was featured in Nature and in Scientific American. Whereas Elena has been awarded several honors for her advocacy, including the OSTEM National STEM Service Award, Juniata College's Office of Diversity and Inclusion Award in recognition of alumni advocacy, and the University of New Hampshire's Bill Kidder Award, which fosters understanding and advances opportunity for LGBT-related causes. Now, therefore, be it resolved that this award is presented to her in recognition of her career achievements and for representing the ideals of the Juniata community by striving for excellence in all of her endeavors. It is an honor and a privilege to present Elena A. Long with this citation of achievement by direction of the Alumni Council.
Start by saying that I am so incredibly excited because I have what I think is the best job in the world, and a large part of being on that path, as Jamie had mentioned, was starting here at Juniata. When I came here, I was newly out of high school from an area of rural Pennsylvania where pretty much everybody grows up to do what their parents did. There were no scientists there. That wasn't a thing real people did, as far as I knew. And it wasn't until later in my career here at Juniata, which really kicked off, particularly when I started taking a modern physics course and just realized how weird and strange the fundamental reality of reality is. And not only that, but that we can study it and know it, and because it's so fundamental, it's a part of each and every one of us. And that just sucked me into physics completely. And when I came in, my initial plan was to use the POE program to create a new major in digital media, which I'm excited now exists, so I could go work for Pixar and took physics classes to try and make computer graphics better. But man, when I found this out, I dropped that entirely, because looking at the quantum world and how strange and beautiful and wonderful that was just blew away any fiction I could possibly put up on a screen. I had no idea what I was going to do with a physics degree until, I don't remember if it was my junior or senior year, when I was approached with the question of, so which grad schools are you applying to? And I was like, I can't go to grad school, I can't afford that. What are you talking about? And then they told me that for physics, they'll pay you to go to grad school. And I was like, I can keep doing this and get paid? Yes, absolutely. So off I went to grad school. Found out that you can only get paid in grad school if you go PhD track. So I went PhD track, figuring worst case scenario, I'll end up with a master's. And figure out what to do with my life then, I guess. But I ended up passing my qualifier exam and getting the opportunity to spend the rest of my research years in grad school working at a national laboratory, studying the fundamental bits of reality that make up each and every one of us. And I just jumped on that opportunity. And when I went down to Jefferson Lab, this has a really long name that Jamie impressively mentioned. We just call it J-Lab because none of us remember it. Thomas Jefferson National Accelerator Facility, there we go, but J-Lab. To be able to work there and go in there not only for the first time and then for the next 5 years, and now every time I go down there with my own experiments that I've recently got approved and will be running in the near future, it just blows me away every single time stepping into one of those experimental halls. Because you first come on site for this accelerator that has a racetrack about a mile in diameter that we shoot electrons through. You can think of it as like a 5-mile long bolt of lightning, the width of a human hair, that we aim on these little targets that we build, that I'm building right now at the University of New Hampshire. And then we scatter the electrons, this lightning bolt, off of it and measure different states of what comes out of it. But when you go down into the experimental hall, you go into this kind of nondescript building, and you go down this elevator shaft about 6 stories down into the ground. You come out through this little maze of concrete hallways, and then you step into it. And it is this 6-story tall cylinder, about a football field in diameter, with these machines in there that have the footprint of about a mobile home. They're 5 stories tall. They're on these big train wheels we can move around. And I get to work there. Every time I go in there, it's still just the scale of it, the fact that we're using this massive, massive machinery to understand these tiny, tiny little bits of nature blows me away. And the fact that starting in August, I found out just about a month ago that I get to do this now as a tenure track professor at the University of New Hampshire. And not only that, but get to share my excitement about this field with students who I'm sure some will, like me, have no idea what they're going to be doing. It just makes me feel so incredibly privileged to be able to do it, and it all started here. And as I go into this, I'm also very recognizant of the fact that last year, when we published our LGBT climate and physics report, we, for the first time ever, were able to get numbers on how many of us there are in physics, which means that I will be joining only 1% of faculty members, tenure track faculty members who are LGBT, which is a very small number. And particularly distressing with that combination of exciting and distressing is that number gets whittled down if you go a little bit earlier and look at how many of us there are as undergrads. We found that there's about 14% of physics undergrads are LGBT. When they go to graduate school, that drops down to about 9%. When they become postdocs, that drops to about 6%. And then at the faculty level, at all levels, it hovers right around 9%. Since I moved down to Jefferson Laboratory, what I found there was a complete lack of community for LGBT scientists. When I was here on campus, there was AWOL, which was amazing in helping me learn more about who I am and love myself and other people. When I went to Kent State, there were similar organizations. When I went to Jefferson Lab, there was nothing. And I remember the first ever conference that I went to for the American Physical Society. I went to a lunch provided by the Committee on the Status of Women in Physics. And being a young, naive graduate student looking for resources, I kind of timidly raised my hand and asked where the resources were for LGBT people. The entire room went silent for about 30 seconds, followed by somebody talking very quietly, saying, "Huh, we never thought of that." At that moment, I didn't know if there would be a future for me in physics, especially because this laboratory that I completely fell in love with did not at the time have employment protections for on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity or gender expression. I didn't know that I could continue in this path of being a physicist if there was no one like me. And when I tried to talk about the issues that I was facing at the time, in part employment, in part health insurance, parts of the time of things going on in my life, because this was also around the same time then, I started losing a number of friends to murder and suicide, and dealing with that on top of the rigors of academia and grad school. It's a very difficult thing to find somebody who gets it and who can talk to you about it. So I started LGBT Physicists. I like to say, because I was very selfishly looking for someone to talk to. And what we built out of that is a community that really showed us that all of us, so many of us in physics are LGBT. And not only that, we've learned that so many different minorities in physics, in science in general, we think that we're the only ones, and that it's all the issues we're facing, we're the only ones who are facing. And by coming together in community for the first time, we can learn that we are not alone, that the issues we face are systemic, and that there are solutions to them, and that you do not have to go through this alone. I'm so incredibly honored to be able to have built an organization that now, when I go out and meet young LGBT undergraduates at physics conferences and see them and meet them, and especially the freshmen who are kind of have no idea what they're doing, but they love physics, but don't know if they can be in it. I can now go to them and tell them that there is a community of us. We're waiting for you, and we want you to succeed, and we will help you in any way we can. Another piece of this, I mentioned this 1% level. How many of that are transgender as well? We have no idea. It took me almost 7 years to be able to get the simple demographic question, are you LGBT, onto American Physical Society, the big national physics organization membership list, where we could find out for the first time ever. We only got that one question on, but I wish we had gotten a lot more, but the rest of the survey we had control over for a separate one. So I definitely recommend looking that up, especially not just for the issues that LGBT people face, but within that we also found that intersectional issues faced by gender minorities within the LGBT community are extremely different. So we found rates of harassment and discrimination of LGBT women about 3 times higher than that of LGBT men. Gender nonconforming people about 4 times higher than that of LGBT men. And 1 out of every 2 trans people that we had surveyed had experienced directly discrimination or harassment within the field, including almost 40% who regularly have colleagues use their incorrect name and pronouns for them, including some people who have been out in the workplace for decades. We found not only that, but a data point that is hard to put statistics on is when you have very small data sets. And we unfortunately did not get enough respondents of LGBT people of color to do a statistical analysis on. But we did do a series of interviews. We could do a qualitative study. And we found the same kind of issues there, that you get compounding issues when you would have racism on top of homophobia, on top of transphobia, on top of sexism. These things combine in really unique ways that people can't separate pieces of their identities for. And one of the things I'm very excited to be working on right now is I'm deputy chair for putting together a new forum of diversity and inclusion within the American Physical Society that when we get it created, it's still in the growing process, is going to be able to address issues facing LGBT people and people of color and women and people with disabilities, both visible and invisible, both physical and mental. Because I think one of the big things that we really miss out on within science is treating our students really well on issues of mental health. I think we're really bad at it, and I think we really need to talk about it more. And so I'm really excited to be part of this organization that's reaching out across all of these groups with representation, not only from my group, LGBT physicists, but from the National Society of Black Physicists, National Society of Hispanic Physicists, the APS Committee on Minorities, APS Committee on the Status of Women in Physics, people with disabilities, all coming together to figure out and have extremely difficult conversations of what does it mean to have an inclusive science. Because what we all want to do, what excites each and every one of us, is to be able to go out at this beautiful universe, not only outside of us, around us, in this podium, but in ourselves, and be able to understand that, and look out from the farthest reaches of the cosmos, looking back billions of years from the beginning of the universe, and then looking out trillions of years into the future to figure out where we're going. We have a lot of really big questions that we need, science needs every single one of us to be able to help out with that effort. And there are so many cases of discrimination and harassment in science that I'm extremely proud to have been able to highlight at least some of, and know that I myself have a lot of work to do on this front as well, because our goal is not any smaller than trying to understand the whole of reality, because we are physicists and we are very arrogant and we think that's a goal we can get to. And we need the most help we can possibly get. So I'm very excited to be able to be a part of this, to be able to do this research, and I'm so excited to be able to be here in front of you to talk about it. Extremely thankful to Jamie White for being my advisor while I was here at Juniata, for the entire physics department, so many of you in the audience who have helped to show me that I could become a physicist, and not only that, but show me what a good physics department is that I can use as a model now as I begin my own path towards the tenure track, towards tenure, hopefully. Oh my goodness. I want to thank the whole alumni community. I want to thank President Truha, especially for the recent changes here on this campus that I'm so excited about, especially in regards to gender-neutral bathrooms and places for trans students on campus. My only regret is that it's during the summer and I can't meet with our current trans students. But if, maybe I'll have to come back during the year and make sure that that happens again. I want to thank all of the people through OSTEM, through LGBT physicists on my APS committee, people who have become really deep and dear friends, who have made me a better person, and who have helped me to survive in a field that I didn't know if I belonged in. And absolutely want to thank my husband, Julian, even though he's not here today, for spending years dealing with my many volunteer hours as I've gone through this. I'm doing, a PhD on top of that, and research, and maintaining a marriage, and being a part of all of this. It's a lot of time. I like to say that I hate free time. And I really want to thank you all for being here. We have a score today. Thank you.